All right, you guys, what is going on? Captain Cody Davis back again for another video here. More specifically, this is going to be another episode of the My Setup series that I've been doing here on the channel. If you guys are unfamiliar with that series of videos or you're just new to the channel in general, essentially all I'm doing is every couple of weeks, I'll just select a random bait or technique that we utilize out here on Lake Okeechobee on a regular basis. And I just go over my rod, reel setup that I throw it on, what line I use, when I like to throw that particular bait, and what brand or, really what brand of that bait that I prefer to throw. I always state at the beginning of these videos that I am not telling you that my way is the best way. I am not telling you that this is the only way to do it. Use what works for you. I'm just telling you guys what works for me. And I get asked a lot of questions in the comments or at the boat ramps and from customers about what particular things I like to use. So I thought this series of videos was a good way to just answer those questions before they even get to me. So today we're going to be talking about really the hottest bait on Okeechobee right now. It has been over the past really 2 months, but it has been over the past 8 years or so. It's a bait that I truly feel like this time of year, talking about spring through summer, if you are not familiar or confident with this bait, you're almost fishing for second place. It's a bait that when we talk about those giant Okeechobee bags, 25 pounds is a hell of a day. 30 pounds is a day of a lifetime for a lot of people. I have yet to break the 30-pound mark on a tournament day on this lake yet. But when you're talking those 32 plus pound bags, 34, 38 pound bags, 99 times out of 100, this bait has something to do with it, if not all to do with it. A lot of people maybe saw the Facebook posts from the Jimmy McMillan Memorial Tournament we had last weekend. I think 12 bags over 30 pounds, 35 pounds was like 5th place. Every one of those 30 plus pound bags that came from Okeechobee came on this bait we're about to talk about right now. And I know that for a fact. And it's just been the way it's just the way it's been on this lake over the past few years. And the bait we're talking about is a frog, or more specifically, a popping frog of some sort. You guys can tell this is a Spro bronze-eye killer gill popping frog. At least it was. This is the one that is still tied on my rod. And you can see this thing is ready to go to the showers, as Mark Zona would say. This thing is destroyed. I pulled this out of the pack and tied it on for a customer of mine a couple of weeks ago, and he caught 32 pounds on it. And for a lot of you locals will laugh at this. Somehow this thing is not ripped. This is a good one. This one was not made on a Friday at 5 o'clock. This one's lasted, I don't know how many, over the past 3 weeks, this particular frog has probably legitimately seen, I'm going to say over 25 bass over 6 pounds. Crazy. Now, here's the deal. There are tournament anglers on this lake that can credit 90% of their tournament success to this lure. And I don't mean that in a way that they're a one-trick pony and it's all they do. It's that they have this bait dialed in, and I'm not really blowing the bait up, because the guys that are deadly with this thing, you could put 40 boats in their area with them all throwing a frog, and they are going to outfish you with it. There are also some small little tricks and sneaky things they do with the frog. I'm not going to get into that because they showed it to me, a lot of these guys, and it's not my secret to share, so I'm not going to do that. But either way, the popping frog, it's, man, so here's the deal. When we're talking Okeechobee, we're 99% of the time talking about a popping style frog. Very rarely do you see someone throwing a walking style or a pointed nose frog out here on the lake. And I think the big reason for that is a lot of people think, if you're unfamiliar with Okeechobee, that you're frog fishing in a bunch of slop where you need to just walk that bait over it. Essentially, mainly what we're doing is we're almost throwing a frog in open water. This bait, I guess I was going to say that we could do a 5-hour podcast on this bait alone because it intrigues me. It's the drawing power it has, the big fish catching capability it has is unlike anything I've ever seen on Okeechobee. The big swim bait craze is going on right now, the big glide baits. And what's the word or the terminology you hear a lot of them say is that those baits have a lot of drawing power. And what that means is, like, if you were to roll that big glide bait by a boat dock, if there's a fish 40 feet up in that dock and he can see that bait, it will draw them out. So even if they don't commit to the bait, it'll show you what's there. Okeechobee's version of that big glide is this bait on my rod right here. When the conditions line up and you're talking about springtime or warming water, you don't want to throw this bait when it's blowing out of the north at 30 and it's freezing cold and you're sweatshirted up. This bait excels in the warming or warm water or just warm temperature conditions, i.e. here in early spring, or from really where it excels, in my opinion, is late March all the way through September. But any warming trends in the other months there, this bait will work great, obviously. 63-degree water and above is what I've seen. It worked best. But, if there is a big fish, and by big, I mean a 6-pounder, and you bring this thing over her head, she may not eat the bait, but she's going to show herself. She'll boil on it. She'll follow it right to the boat. I don't know what it is about this bait, but the big ones just can't stand it. They have to come up and look at it. And what we all say is, I really think that they think this thing is a dead or a dying brim or bluegill on top. You don't want them to think it's a frog whatsoever. But this bait it's unreal. And there's a lot of guys out here, like I said, that just do nothing but throw this thing, and it shows. Chris and Kale, who had 37 pounds in the Jimmy tournament, I've seen them weigh in 38 pounds. It was on this bait. I watched them, I think, weigh in 35 pounds a couple of times. There's guys that just lock this bait in their hand. They know they're not going to get a lot of bites, but the ones they're going to get are the ones you want to put in the boat for tournament day. So pretty cool. So here's the deal. And again, I am far, 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 far from the best frog fisherman on the lake, but it is a bait that I love and I have a lot of confidence in. The one that I throw is this, for now anyway. I heard Gambler's coming out with one. I fished it. I like it a lot. But this guy right here, the Spro Bronze Eye Poppin' Frog. Now, I'll tell you guys this. They make that King Daddy one now. I believe it's the real big one, or I think they call it a King Daddy. I don't even know. But the bigger size, we don't really throw that one. This is the medium one. It's not the junior. It's the medium one. I don't even know. I think it's just the standard one. I sound like an idiot right now. But I'm not a big color guy. Killer Gill is probably the most popular. That's what this one is. I either throw Killer Gill or black. That's really about it. And I just, pull her out of the box. I kind of bend the hooks up slightly, and I throw them out there. Again, there's some little tricks and things off, aftermarket add-ons you can do to the frog that some of the locals out here do. But I'm not going to blow up their secret. I don't think it matters. I really don't think it makes a hella beans difference. But if it makes them fish better, so be it. And they're catching 37 pounds, and I'm not even catching 30. So maybe there is something to it. But this bait, anytime we're talking bluegill eating fish or even spawning fish, but even then, if you're talking about a spawning bass, that water is going to be in the high 60s. When that water gets below 64 degrees, I personally don't like using it in water under 68 degrees. But I know a lot of people that throw it in 63 and crush them. So that goes back to it being a confidence thing. But this is a bait that will, even if they're not hungry, this will just piss them off and they'll come up and eat it. So I throw mine, going to what I throw it on. I throw it on 65-pound braid, just like I do pretty much everything else. Now here's the thing I changed up. I used to throw this bait on a 7.4 extra. It was a mag heavy rod. And that was a very popular rod, style of rod for out here for throwing a frog on Okeechobee. But it almost got to be almost too much. Like, couldn't play the fish around the boat. I didn't have enough tip to make pinpoint accurate casts when it came to making a light perfect cast to an isolated reed stalk for spawning fish or whatnot. And then it got to the point where like the rod was so stiff when I'd hit the fish, all the rod didn't take any of the load. All the load went right to the reel. And there was this dead zone where I'd set the hook and I just, there was so much strain on the reel, I couldn't gain line. And I was kind of just at like a stalemate with the fish. So I started talking to a lot of the guys fishing on the lake. They catch a lot bigger fish than me. And I started picking up their frog rods. And a lot of their rods that they're throwing they're more like a medium heavy as opposed to a heavy. They're shorter, 7.2, 7.3. And I don't know. They never have a problem losing the fish or anything like that. A big frog rod that a lot of the guys are using around here. It's a lot of you are familiar with the company Senko Sticks. My buddy Alex Tarasenko, he's a custom rod builder. He's one of the best frog fishermen on the lake, so he builds an awesome frog rod. You guys can check him out if you want anything custom built. He does have some, what do they call it, stock rods as well. But he makes a really good frog rod. But like him and all the guys that fish his stuff, when they would set the hook on their fish, I'd see their rod load a lot more than the rod I was using. So I picked up this ARC 7.3 mag medium heavy. So it's not a medium heavy. It's a step up from that, but it's not quite a heavy. And what a difference. I've been fishing with it now for the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's got the ass to pull the fish out of the pads, out of the grass, whatever you need to do. It's got enough ass to set the hook and get the hooks pinned in that fish. But it also has a good tip. It's a much lighter rod, and it doesn't fatigue you as much. It's got more tip, so it makes it easier to pinpoint cast. On top of that, when you pop, that tip will load a little more, and it'll really make that frog get more of that bloop or that deep pop that we're looking for. Sometimes that heavy would almost make the frog kind of skip out of the water because there was no give. When you set the hook, the whole rod loads all the way through. So all that torque isn't on your reel. It's not all on your wrist. I mean, the rod's doing a lot of the work, and it's still got enough ass to boat flip the fish in the boat and things like that. But I really, really like this. It's a 7.3 mag medium heavy ARC Essence rod, and I've got it on an ARC gravity reel. And you can see I've got it on a left-handed reel. I'm traditionally right-handed, but I've been playing around doing some baits on my left-handed reels and some on my right. This one, I started playing with just I'm chugging that frog all day, and I think my reaction time is a little bit slower with my left hand, so that enables that fish to get the bait a little better before I reel down and get them. 7-to-1 reel. A lot of guys throw 8s. I like having that power in my handle, so I throw a 7. It's still fast enough that I can catch up to the fish, but after I crack her, I can turn the handle. So I like that. So that's it. I mean, you could throw this thing anywhere. You could throw it around whatever you want. If you're around big fish, they eat it. But yeah, that's the other good thing about this medium heavy. When the fish eats the bait, a lot of people swing on the initial blow up. That's not what I like to do. I like to just point the rod where I saw the blow up and pick up line until my rod starts to load and pull into the fish. Now a little bit of a tip enables that bass doesn't feel as much resistance when you get tight. You can really load into the fish and set the hook. So that's it. 7.3 mag medium heavy, 65-pound braid, and a 7-to-1 reel. If you like an 8-to-1, a lot of people throw it on an 8. Put this thing in your hand. It's like flipping. Bring this thing and make it the only boat fishing or the only bait in your boat and get familiar with it. It catches a lot of real big fish. So other than that, that's about it. We just got power back here. I'm glad I canceled my trip today because it is literally blowing 40 miles an hour outside and lightning and raining. So I'm probably just going to crack a beer and watch TV today on my day off. So appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.